All right, we are back, and we promised, as always, every week at this time, we talk with Michelle Kaufman from the Miami Herald and our Inter-Miami, of course, report, which we'll talk a little bit more than Inter-Miami today, because yesterday, of course, the Canes played, and we'll talk to Michelle a little bit about that. Michelle, first of all, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good, good. How are you? The weather is beautiful. I have the door open to the office, and it's brilliant outside because I know it's cold and raining and snowing in other places.
Yes, it is, and it's really nice for us right now. Last night, before we get into a little Inter-Miami, the boys had a rough one. We kind of expected it. It is Louisville. It is the ACC. But, hey, it was a little, for a young team, and that's what we have to understand about them. It was a gritty effort for them last night. They fought as much as they could, in other words.
Yeah, I mean, they went down by 20, and all of a sudden they got it to 5. Any team that can cut a lead from 20 to 5 against a top 15 team. Louisville is a very, very good team, although they lost a couple of games. They lost FSU the other day, but that's Leonard Hamilton. He does that to you sometimes. But they cut it down from 20 to 5. I really thought they were maybe going to pull it off. It was very exciting at that point that they had, they didn't collapse when they went down by 20 on the road. They stuck with it. They kept going. They got it to 5. And, once again, they don't have much depth. And, Chris Lakes he's very good, but he's small. And they don't have much depth. And Keith Stone got injured again, his knee, which is a shame because he was actually helping a lot in the paint recently since he just had come back about 4 weeks ago, and he had made a big difference just having a rotation, having an extra big body in there to do the dirty work. And so they don't have him. Harlan Beverly is out pretty much. He's very limited, and he was actually the freshman, the one that was contributing the most before he injured his back. So he's kind of a day-to-day thing. So, they were a little bit short in numbers and short in stature with Chris, and they still – they didn't embarrass themselves. They played much better than they did against Duke, and they were able to battle back to get it to within 5, at the very close to the end of the game. So I think, the truth is Duke and Louisville, those are both really, really good teams. They happen to get them back to back. Now they'll have Pitt on Sunday at home. And, the following weekend they have FSU here, which is always a tough game. But, the ACC is tough, but I don't think anybody would be surprised if they end up, in the top half of the ACC. I don't think they're going to be the best team in the ACC. I don't think they're going to be the worst. I think they're going to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, somewhere in the. They'll be one of those bubble teams trying to get in. Really, Michelle, we're a year away, right? Like next year should be.
It's 1 year away.
Yeah.
They're 1 year away. They're going to have almost everyone back. The only senior
Vasilovich, right?
Is Vasilovich, and he's a big loss. He's actually each year gotten better, and he's a very, very good shooter, although he missed them last night. But they're going to lose him, but they're getting 2 really, really good freshmen, and all the guys that they have are going to be back. And then there's a transfer from Cincinnati who's very, very good. So, he's a big leader and a big time player. So I think next year they're going to be good. I think this year they're going to be up and down a little bit. Like I said, I think they'll finish in the top half of the league. I don't think they'll be in the bottom half, but they don't quite have yet what it takes to beat the elite teams in the conference.
How screwed up is it? Because none of us would have guessed this. When this university entered the ACC, that the men's basketball program would actually adjust to basketball a lot faster and have way more success than football ever did, when basketball is 10 times harder in the ACC than it is in football. How in the world can you explain this?
Right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the idea was they're going to enter the ACC, they're going to dominate in football, and they're going to struggle in basketball.
Yeah.
And it's turned out to be opposite. I mean, they've won ACC titles. And they've beaten Coach L is 5-6 against Duke. He has 5 wins over Duke since he took over here. So they're beating the elite teams in the conference every other year pretty much, and made it to 2 Sweet 16s. and won ACC titles, not just half of the conference, won the whole conference title more than once. And, so yeah, the basketball team has outdone the football team, honestly, since they joined the ACC.
Yeah, I just try to explain to people, be patient, because, look, we have to understand what they are, okay? They're a very good program under Larinaga, but because of the way things are built and the way this whole system is built, they probably are going to have a really good team every couple of years. They don't have the luxury of, adding a McDonald's All-American every year like Kentucky and Duke and North Carolina can do, where they're going to be elite every year. There's going to be a little bit of a turnover.
You look at Duke. You look at Duke the other night. They played 10 guys. Every single one of those 10 guys is an elite, 5-star recruit. So when their starter comes out and the backup comes in, there's not really that much of a drop. And, they don't have that luxury here. And, one of the reasons we talk about it all the time, but the fans, the basketball fans that are out there, or the fans that complain, they need to go to the games and create some atmosphere at those games, because, if there are Hurricane fans out there complaining about the basketball team, how many games have those people actually attended? How many times have they screamed their lungs out for the basketball team? And when I've traveled around the
Michelle, we are not allowed to complain about basketball. We cannot. That's
right.
It's ignorant to complain about basketball. We just spoke about how productive they have been, and considering how difficult it is in the ACC, their accomplishments are freaking amazing. We can complain.
I know. They're recruiting. They're trying to recruit. Yeah, they're trying to recruit against basketball blue bloods, powerhouses like Duke, Carolina, Virginia. These teams, NC State, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech. These are all basketball schools, and more than football. These are basketball schools with long basketball traditions, Hall of Fame coaches, Ray Williams and Mike Krzyzewski, and, you've got programs that have long traditions, and for Coach L to come in here and beat them on a fairly consistent basis and have the success he's had is very, very impressive. And, for them to be able to compete for the top recruits, like, I got a few emails. I wrote about Vernon Carey the other day, and I got a few emails. How come couldn't get him? Whatever. But, that's an elite player. He was recruited by all the top programs in the country, and he considered of course. He loves His dad went there. But at the end of the day, it's tough for Miami to get those very, very, very top recruits to come here. But it would help if, when they bring the recruits to games, the stadium was full, the arena, and there were students in the student section cheering and making noise like they do at every other ACC school. Has great atmosphere for basketball, and needs to create a little bit more of that in order to help with the recruiting, in my opinion.
And they deserve it. That's the thing. Look, we can bitch, complain, point fingers at the football program. They have screwed up in every single way and form out there. That's legit. But basketball, there is no complaining. They have been absolutely outstanding. And if anybody thinks they're going to become Duke or North Carolina, then you're just ridiculous at this point. You have to appreciate what Larinaga's done. And he could be even leaving you his replacement in Caputo. That's the other thing that but most people don't even care or even talk about that. But the next guy could be in place already for the Canes. That's how set up.
Oh yeah, no.
Chris
Caputo has been with him. Yeah, Chris Caputo is. He has turned down some top jobs. Some head jobs already, because he's really happy here and likes to work. He's worked with Coach L his entire career, pretty much. He's been by his side and learned from a guy who took George Mason to the Final Four. That is the ultimate. Not only did he take George Mason to the Final Four, but who he beat to get to that Final Four, with a George Mason team that nobody would have traded rosters. Not one top program in this country would have traded rosters with the George Mason roster. And yet he took that team to the Final Four. So, no, there's no question Coach L gets the most out of his teams. He's a great tactician. He figures out ways to beat teams that they can beat. I just think right now, some of the top teams in this conference are a little bit out of their reach right now.
No doubt. All right, let's move over to Inter Miami. That's what we do every week. But You cover UM basketball. They played last night. We got to get a little love in for UM basketball.
That's right.
So what do we got new going on with Inter this week? What's the latest going on?
Well, the big news is that the college draft is tomorrow. So that's the big news, is that they are preparing for the college draft. They have the number 1 overall pick and the number 3 pick. So they're going to get 2 of the top 3 players in college. And the way the draft works, for those who don't know, it's mostly seniors who are coming out, but there's also Generation Adidas, which is a small group of players that are underclassmen who have been selected, and their contracts are sponsored by Adidas. And so, A, those salaries do not count against the salary cap. B, those underclassmen players, if they are selected, have their education paid for in the future, should they decide to go back and finish up their college degree. So it's a way. It was started many, many years ago because younger players were allowed to go, sign with European teams, but they were not being able to sign here because they were losing their NCAA eligibility and blah, blah, blah. So MLS partnered with Nike. Back then it was called Project 40. Now it's Generation Adidas. But anyway, since 2003, every single number 1 pick since 2003, so 16 years in a row, the number 1 pick has been one of the Generation Adidas players. So I think it is a very safe bet, and I pretty much can assure you that the number 1 pick is going to be one of the 5 players who are in the Generation Adidas class of this year. So 2 of them are really good forwards. One of them is a sophomore from UVA, from Virginia, that's coming out, who's a phenom named Daryl Dyke, and his brother played in the MLS. He's a young guy, a sophomore, but super strong, super good instincts. He's, supposed to be like this incredible phenom who scored a bunch of goals, scored in the championship game against Georgetown. They ended up losing in penalty kicks, but he scored the goal for Virginia, and he was only a sophomore. So that guy is one. Then the guy who won the Herman Trophy this year, which is like the Heisman for soccer, is a junior out of Clemson. His name is Robbie Robinson. He's also a center forward, tall, like 6'2", big guy, big target, was the leading scorer in the country, tied with 18 goals, like in 21 games for Clemson. And I think Clemson had the top offense in the country or whatever. So he's another guy that is one of the top players in the Generation Adidas class. Then if they decide they want to go with a defender with that number 1 pick, there's a center back named Jack Maher, Maher, from Indiana, also a sophomore. So the 2 sophomores that I've mentioned are, the fact that they're already chosen by the league and Adidas to be in the draft as coming out as sophomores. That's kind of like the basketball players that come out after 1 or 2 years. These are really, really talented players who are very young but have a lot of upside. So that's, the top center back is him. And then there's another one named Henry Kessler, also out of Virginia, who's a center back. And then there's a sophomore winger, Ryan Raposo, from Syracuse. Those 5 players are considered the top 5, the top 5 underclassmen that are coming out. And all of them signed Generation Adidas contracts. And like I mentioned, every number 1 pick since 2003 has been a Generation Adidas player. So I think it's a pretty safe assumption that their number 1 pick, and maybe the 3 also, will come out of that little pool. And then there are 2 seniors. One is a defender from Georgetown named Dylan Nealis, whose brother also played in MLS, and a Stanford defender, Tanner Beeson. Both of those pre-signed MLS contracts and are eligible for the draft. They're kind of considered the 2 of the top seniors. Then there's one guy who's interesting, and I don't know, I only mention him because of Paul McDonough's background with Orlando and the fact that we live in Florida. There's a center forward out of UCF named Cal Jennings. He had 18 goals. He tied with Robinson that I mentioned earlier with the Herman Trophy winner. Mm-hmm. He tied with 18 goals in 20 games. He scored 14 goals in 15 games as a junior and 18 goals in 20 games as a senior. So he's a very, very prolific scorer out of UCF, Cal Jennings. The only thing with him is that the competition he played against at UCF was not quite the top conference as the guys that are at UVA and IU
ACC. ACC.
yeah, ACC.
You mentioned a lot of ACC schools out
Yes,
of those
Clemson.
top draft picks.
Yeah, of the top 5, you have Clemson, you have UVA, you have UVA, Syracuse. So, these are, the ACC is super strong in men's and women's soccer. So, anyway, the big story will be tomorrow at 12:30 is the first pick. So they have the number 1 pick and the number 3 pick, and both of those, I believe, will be players who will be able to contribute and compete for playing time, coming out of college. So
wow.
We're going to have 2 more players on the team tomorrow, and then the 2 DPs are still being worked on. The other news I have is that the coach, Diego Alonso, the reason he's not here yet, you may be wondering, they're starting practice in 10 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
Training camp begins, they report for their physicals on the 18th of January. So that's in 10 days from today. The coach is not here because they are working on his work visa. He needs a work visa in order to be able to even have a press conference here or to run a practice. So they are working right now very diligently on with immigration to try to get his work papers in order ASAP so that he can get here and be able to start coaching and have his opening press conference and all that. So that's all in the works right now. So he'll be able to be here in time for the opening of training camp, January 18th. Then your next question is going to be, as you've been asking me for many weeks now, where are they going to practice? That is also going to be announced in the next few days here. It is going to be regional. They are going to be likely in various locations in the state of Florida. I don't know for sure. I don't think they're leaving Florida, but I think they're going to be regionally in, South Florida, West Florida, Central Florida, for various portions of their training camp. So that's all going to be announced in the next few days. The coach is supposed to be, as soon as he gets his work visa, he will be in Miami or Fort Lauderdale. And then we're waiting on the DPs. We're waiting on the DPs. I would assume that they would like to have them named before January 18th, which is when the training camp starts. So they've got 10 days to get a lot of things done.
All right. I like that. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, do they have intentions to compete for a title right from the get-go?
Wait, I didn't hear that.
Do they have?
Wait, say that again.
Okay, can you hear me now? You got me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Are there intentions to be competitive for a title right from year one, or should we treat them like an expansion
Their intentions
team?
are to compete from year one. No, their intentions are to make a playoff run in year one. Yeah, they're not viewing this as a they plan to compete from year one. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's good.
Yeah, they know they have to. I mean, this is Miami. Okay, we know. We've just discussed. This is Miami. They're not going to be settling for, we have a new team here, and we think that in 2 years from now, in 2022, we're going to be competitive. No. This is Miami, and they know that they have to make a really good impression from the start. So I think the 2 DPs are going to be players that are going to be very high-level players. And, I think that what Paul did in Atlanta, he's trying to replicate here to be,
right.
To be a playoff team right from the get-go.
Okay. All right. Well, that's definitely good to hear. Any news on the jerseys? Do we know the dates at all when they're actually going to be released?
I don't know the dates. That apparently is coming down from Adidas, and we are still waiting. I mean, I think every day that goes by is a day wasted, but, I'm not in charge. Nobody asked my opinion, so I would have put them out before the holidays, because I know that I would have bought several of them for my relatives and friends. So no, I don't know when that's happening. It's supposed to be soon. I had heard, early to mid-January, before, again, all of these things should be in place, to be honest, before they, they're going to report for physicals 10 days from today. I would think that they would want to have their jersey already in place when they start their training camp. They would want to have their coach here on the ground when they start training camp. And they would want to have their DPs. They would want to have the roster full, not have, some spots open there lingering, because I think, they do have till February officially to finalize the roster. I think there's like a roster freeze At some point in February, they can't add anybody anymore. So I suppose they could drag it out even longer, but I would think they'd like to get all of these things accomplished in the next 10 days. It's a very, very busy. Each time I've been trying to call over there and talk to people at Inter Miami, when I get through to them, it sounds very crazy and hectic over there. There's a lot going on.
I would imagine. I mean, it's crunch time already at this point. So, yeah.
It's crunch time. It's crunch time, yeah.
Big time. All right, follow her on Twitter at Kauf Sports. More importantly, catch her work at your doorstep or online at the Herald Sports website. Michelle, as always, thank you for taking some time. Can't wait for a little football.
Okay, me neither. It'll be fun.
Happy New Year. Be good.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
All right, there you go. The great Michelle Kaufman, man, joining us here on the program. How about that? Speaking of, well, I can't say soccer, but I can say football, or how about American football? Did you hear about this? Santia Deck, okay? She is now the face of the Women's Football League Association, the WFLA. Did you guys ever hear about that? It is a new league. It is going to start off in 2021. All right? It's an elite women's league. And Santia, you can look her up, by the way. She's a looker. She's the queen of abs. She's a track star, a rugby player. She's a celebrity fitness trainer. She's published multiple books and DVDs. She is part of the WFLA's Los Angeles franchise. Now, this is a women's football league that has 32 teams. 32. They've got 2 conferences, 32 teams. And she just signed a multi-million-dollar contract. Now, they didn't release the details, so I don't know exactly what that multi-million-dollar contract exactly means. I have a hard time understanding that because I don't even think that league will produce any money. But I'm just wondering. I mean, I know that you guys and ladies out there, a lot of you are going to mention the lingerie league, right? Because that's what got popularity because, of course, women in lingerie playing football. This is not considered a lingerie. This is considered a legitimate elite women's football league. Any shot that this has success. And look it up. Santia Deck is, did you look her up?
No, I'm just lingerie league. I see pillows, feathers flying in the air, oh, there's a football. Don't worry about it. We got a pillow,
Right, yeah. No, I get it. I get it. I get that that's the impression that you would get from those lingerie leagues. But yeah. So Santia. And let's see, let me, can we give you, here we go. There's a picture of Santia. Let's see. Santia is talented. I'll give you that.
Listen, there's going to be some sex appeal here, correct?
Just a tad.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Just a tad. It's interesting that the face of the league is hot. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Well, you remember League of Their Own, and wow, she's gorgeous. But League of Her Own, the lady, and it's, oh, cut this, do that, paint those, oh, God, are they going to have night games?
Yeah, that's, well, you definitely want day games with Santia. That's for sure.
You don't want her wearing a helmet with those eyes.
Yeah.
You want to be able to see those eyes.
She's a good-looking girl, man. Good-looking girl. But they gave her a multi-million-dollar deal. Huh?
More power for her, man. Good for her.
No, great for her. I'm just wondering, is it a good business move? And I wonder who's investing in a 32-team women's – the men's league just failed. Right now, they just had that other men's league, and it failed miserably. They couldn't even get through a season. They didn't have enough funding. I just have a hard time believing that a women's league is going to make it at all.
You do know that sometimes
their soccer is better than our soccer, and they can't make it in soccer professionally because women play a much prettier game than our guys. Okay? I mean, it's not even close.
The fundamentals are
Everything.
It's like girls basketball. The fundamentals are so amazing.
They know how to play together. We suck. Okay?
Our girls are
awesome.
Our guys.
I love watching the girls play.
Yes.
And then we had the pro league here, and we had one in Boca. We had one of the teams was in Boca. I went up for a couple of games. Nobody would go.
No,
Nobody would go. It was friends and family.
Here,
there.
my dad will not miss the girls' game.
Of course not.
Will not, and it is must see.
It is.
It is.
Love watching the ladies play, but unfortunately, women's sports doesn't make any money. Women don't even support women's sports. You realize that, right? Any of you women that are watching me right now, you don't go to a WNBA game. You don't go to a women's soccer game. Not the Olympics, not the national. I'm talking about the professional women's soccer leagues that have existed. You don't go. It's the funniest thing in the world. One of the reasons why women's sports is an enormous failure at the box office because women don't support it. And they outnumber us.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Okay?
The ratio used to be bigger, but they say it's closer to 50, mid-50s, upper 50s to, 43, 48.
Yeah. And so you outnumber us, and you'll go. You know what? The only women's sport that people will go see, and I'm talking about women, women's tennis. That's it. They don't support their own in any sport outside of women's tennis. It's amazing. Now, you tell a woman you want to go to an NBA game or an NFL game or a college football game over in WNBA, for sure. They won't even bother. They're just like us because they look at the quality and they say, no, I'm used to watching the men. They play at a higher level. And that's why even women's basketball does not succeed. The WNBA is a loser. Doesn't make money. Supported by the NBA. It's crazy. But the biggest culprit on why women's pro sports is not successful, it's women. It's crazy. Women. They don't support their own.
You know what's another thought hero?
What's that?
I can remember back in the day, Flanagan's, and they had one there in Miami Springs. The place sat dormant. Then they ended up coming in and putting all the new stuff and refurbishing and this and that, and talking to one of the managers, obviously being close about it. This was to show a loss. Maybe these people have enough money that they need a tax write-off.
Well, the NBA, yeah, or the owners,
maybe
they're
they
the
need
ones.
to show
They're
a
the
loss.
ones. They're the ones that own the team. Well, no, I don't think so because
I'm just saying it's a possible business scenario.
I'm just telling you, Mickey got rid of the soul because it didn't make money.
Well, Mickey,
he wasn't going to, like some of the owners
subsidize.
Yeah, some of the owners are supporting those WNBA teams and they're not making a dime. They're losing.
Oh, they are.
They're losing their ass.
Maybe one or two teams in the whole league are
maybe.
breaking even.
It's like college basketball. It's UConn and it's Tennessee and whatever, a couple other teams.
Baylor,
right. There's a couple teams.
Stanford.
A couple women's teams, and after that, nobody's making money.
Notre Dame is starting to. You know what? I noticed that our girls, us and Florida State, were both in the top 20, and Florida State got the better of our girls.
Nathan Hall is saying here on the chat board that February 5th for the Kits, it was just announced by the MLS. Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate that, my brother. Ian from Brooklyn says, she's fine, but me thinks those are contacts, LOL. Oh, her eyes, I didn't really look that deep into her. Wow, Ian, you must have your own pictures.
That's what I was saying. Remember I said she can't wear a helmet. You got to see her eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me see her eyes.
Mesmerizing, bro.
Let me see her eyes.
You know what? Can I say something, sir? It's time to find out about a Washington State quarterback.
Yeah. And she does have awesome eyes.
That's
I don't
what
know
I
if they're
was saying.
You know what? I don't think they're contacts, actually. I don't think so. Good. I don't think it's a contact, actually. I think it's a real deal.
Oof.
Real eyes.
Man.
She's gorgeous, man. She's gorgeous. But, yeah.
I can understand why the league made her the face of the whole situation.
And she's already got,
a following,
star quality to her, a little celebrity to her as a celebrity fitness trainer and writing books and DVDs and things like that. But I get it. But, wow. impressive. But now I will say this. I may just watch just to see if I can get to see an interview of Santia Dek on the not because I'm going to watch the game itself, but just she takes off her helmet and does the interview, then yeah.
O's chiming in the last minute of the game. Doesn't care what the score. Yeah, come on, get that out of. Let's get that camera back on that girl.
I'm sitting there with my wife 2 nights ago, and we're watching television, and I channel surf, and I'm forgetting the name of the movie, Dusk Till Dawn, and
Selma. Oh, Selma.
So I go like this, right? I'm channel surfing through the DirecTV. Yeah, I'm still doing that. And I see Dusk Till Dawn, right? And my wife is sitting right next to me. And I go, oh, let's see if Salma Hayek is a Salma Hayek scene. And sure enough, dude, right when I hit it, it's the Salma Hayek
Timing
scene.
is of the essence, my brother.
And my wife is like, what are you talking about? I go, watch.
You're as bad
and she watches. She goes, what's the big deal? I go, what's the big deal? I go, it's Salma Hayek, a snake, that body. Come on. Give her credit. Even you got to give her credit. And she goes, okay, yeah, she's hot.
But it's not anywhere near your girl.
Who? Which one?
Holly.
Oh, Holly. Yeah, no. Well,
I was going to say, you're like George Costanza with what's her name and Susan. Hey, isn't that another one of those movies with her?
Yeah, Holly's.
What was it?
I'm actually looking forward to seeing the athleticism and the arm because it's something that you watch. I watched the Air Force game the other day, the bowl game that he had. They lost, I think, 31-21, I want to say, that they lost. And he played all right. It wasn't anything special in that game. But it's one of those guys that kind of tempts you with the talent and that you hope that he can kind of, put it all together when it's all said and done. But it's a project type guy. That's why I don't think he's going to go anywhere near the first 3 rounds probably. He's probably a 4th round guy and beyond is where he's probably going to end up going, somewhere in the 3rd day. But because he's 6'3", because he's got an arm, because he can move around a little bit, this is one of those guys that NFL teams and guys are going to want to get because you're not spending a really high pick on him, and yet he's got all the talent that maybe you can develop something into him. Maybe you can't. You never know. But that's the kind of project that you get with a guy like Gore. I can't wait to see him over at the Senior Bowl and see how he comes through. Anyway, we got to thank Kobe Price, Michelle Kaufman. We got to thank Pat Boylan from the Pacers. Also, Theo Lawson for joining us on the program. Of course, Bill, as always, getting it done. John Cassio, our producers, always working hard.
Thank you, O.
Thank you, sir.
Everybody out there, thanks you in Radio Land.
I don't know about that, but I thank all of you out there for your incredible support.
If you're watching on YouTube, remember to give us the thumbs up, please.
Yes, plenty of thumbs up there on the YouTube broadcast. We will see you tomorrow live from Toyota of Hollywood. We'll be on at 11 a.m. We'll see you then. You guys be good out there. Be safe. Go Heat. Enjoy that heat tonight.
Have a good night.
Since the Big O Show.